Welcome to Creepy Corner Stories Playgrounds. They're supposed to be places of joy, filled with laughter, running feet, and the echo of childhood memories. But what happens when they're left to rot? When the swings creak in the wind, untouched for years? When the merry-go-round spins, even though no one is there? Tonight, we step into the forgotten world of abandoned playgrounds, where the rusted slides hold dark secrets, and the sandboxes are graveyards for more than just broken toys. From ghostly children seen at dusk to whispers coming from empty tunnels, these playgrounds have stories to tell. But beware, some say the spirits of these places don't like visitors. And if you listen closely, you might just hear the laughter of someone or something that never left. Let's begin. Story: The Rusted Playground. There's an old playground at the edge of town. No one goes there anymore. The metal swings are rusted, the merry-go-round barely moves, and the slide, well, no one dares go near it. It all started years ago when a little girl named Lily vanished without a trace. She was last seen playing on that very slide, laughing as she climbed up the ladder. But when her mother turned away for just a second, Lily was gone. No footprints in the sand, no sign of a struggle, just silence. After that, strange things began to happen. People reported hearing giggles echoing through the empty park at night. The swings would sway, even when there was no wind. And the slide? Some say if you stand close enough, you can hear whispers calling your name. One night, a group of teenagers decided to test the legend. They brought a flashlight and dared each other to slide down, just like Lily did. The first boy climbed up, hesitated, then slid down. Nothing happened. The second girl did the same. Still nothing. But when the third teen, Jake, sat at the top, he suddenly froze. His friends called his name, but he didn't respond. His body shook, his breathing grew ragged, and then he was gone. The flashlight flickered, and the air turned ice cold. They searched the entire playground, but Jake had vanished, just like Lily. To this day, no one knows where he went. But if you go to that playground at night and listen carefully, you might hear two voices whispering now, calling for you to play. Story: The Broken Swing. Every town has a place that people avoid, a place where something terrible happened and time refuses to move on. In my town, that place is Willow Creek Playground. It's been abandoned for years, left to rust and rot. But at night, something still lingers there. The legend says a boy named Danny used to play there every afternoon. His favorite swing was the one on the far left, the one that still stands today, barely hanging by its rusted chains. One day, he stayed out too late. His mother called for him, but he didn't answer. The next morning, they found his body under that very swing, his face twisted in terror. No cause of death, no explanation, just fear. After that, the playground was closed, but people say Danny never left. Some nights, if you walk by, you'll see that swing moving on its own, slow at first, then faster. Some have even claimed to hear a child's voice whispering, "Push me." A few years ago, a man, probably drunk, decided to prove the stories were fake. He sat on the broken swing and laughed. He even called out, "Come on, Danny, give me a push." The next morning they found him there, sitting perfectly still, eyes wide open, dead. His expression? The same twisted look of terror Danny had the night he died. Now, no one dares go near that playground. And if you ever hear a swing creaking when there's no wind, walk away, because Danny's still there, waiting for someone to push him. Story: Hide and Seek. There's an old playground on the outskirts of town. No one knows who built it, and no one dares play there. The slide is covered in rust, the swings are tangled in dead vines, and the seesaws sit frozen in place. But the worst part? The tunnels. A long time ago, kids used to play hide and seek in those tunnels. But one night, a boy named Max never came out. His friends searched for hours, calling his name, but he was gone, vanished. The next morning, his parents found his shoes just outside the tunnel entrance, but nothing else. After that, people started hearing strange noises coming from the playground after dark, scraping sounds, heavy breathing, and sometimes laughter. One night, a teenager named Kevin decided to test the legend. His friends dared him to crawl into the tunnel and stay inside for 5 minutes. He grinned, took his phone for light, and went in. The moment he disappeared into the darkness, the laughter started, but it wasn't his. His friends called for him, but he didn't answer. The tunnel seemed longer than before, deeper. Then suddenly, his phone light went out, the laughter stopped, and for a long moment, there was only silence. Then Kevin's scream. His friends yanked him out, but something was wrong. His face was pale, his eyes wide with terror. He wouldn't speak, wouldn't blink, just stared at the tunnel, shaking. That night, Kevin disappeared from his home. The front door was still locked, no footprints outside. Nothing but his phone left behind with one last photo, a blurry image, dark, taken inside the tunnel, and in the very back, two glowing eyes staring right at him. Story tag, you're it. There's something wrong with the old Redwood Hollow playground. People say it's cursed, that those who play there after dark don't come back the same. Years ago, a group of kids were playing tag. It was late, the sun slipping behind the trees, but they weren't ready to go home. That's when a new kid showed up. No one had seen him before. He had pale skin, dark hollow eyes, and a grin that stretched too wide. He didn't say a word, just tapped one of them on the shoulder and whispered, "Tag, you're it." Then he ran. At first they laughed and chased him, but something felt wrong. No matter how fast they ran, they couldn't catch him. No matter where they hid, he always found them. And one by one, the laughter faded. The next morning, 3 of the kids were missing. Their bikes were still there. Their footprints led to the playground, but never away from it. The only one left was a boy named Ben. They found him at home, curled up in his bed, whispering the same words over and over. "Don't play tag, don't play tag, don't play tag." He never spoke again. Now, if you step onto that playground at night, you might hear footsteps behind you. You might feel a tap on your shoulder. And if you turn around, you might see a pale-faced boy grinning at you. And if he whispers, "Tag, you're it," run. Story: The Last Ride. There's an old playground on the west side of town, forgotten and rotting away. No one plays there anymore. Not after what happened. Not after the merry-go-round took another child. It started decades ago when a little girl named Emily went missing. She was last seen playing on the rusted merry-go-round, laughing as she spun faster and faster. But when her mother turned to call her home, Emily was gone. The merry-go-round slowed to a stop. The air was still, and there was no sign of the girl. People searched for days, but she was never found. The only thing left behind was a single, dusty shoe beneath the ride. After that, strange things began happening. Parents would hear laughter at night, but when they checked, the playground was empty. The merry-go-round would spin on its own, even when the air was completely still. And if you got too close, you could hear something whispering beneath it. A few years ago, a boy named Daniel didn't believe the stories. He and his friends dared each other to go to the playground after dark. Daniel, cocky and fearless, sat right in the center of the merry-go-round and shouted, "Faster! Faster!" The wind picked up. The ride began to spin. His friends laughed until they realized none of them were pushing it. The merry-go-round kept spinning, faster and faster and faster. Daniel's laughter turned to screams. He tried to jump off, but something held him down. His friends grabbed at him, but it was no use. He was sucked beneath the ride, vanishing into the darkness. By the time the merry-go-round stopped, Daniel was gone. The next morning, all they found was his shoe. Now, if you ever pass by that playground at night, be careful. If the merry-go-round is moving, don't go near it, because once you take a ride, you never get off. Story: The Shadow in the Tunnel. Every playground has a tunnel, a simple, hollow tube where kids crawl through, laughing, playing hide-and-seek. But the one at Ridgeway Park is different. The kids here don't laugh, they don't play, and if they do, they don't come back the same. It started with a boy named Tommy. He was 6 years old, always smiling, always running ahead of his parents. One afternoon he ran straight into the tunnel and never came out. His parents searched both ends, but it was empty. He had vanished. The police tore the tunnel apart, dug under it, scanned the whole park. But there was no sign of Tommy. Just a strange, dark stain at the center of the tunnel, one that wouldn't wash away. After that, people avoided the playground, but some kids, the brave ones, still dared each other to crawl through. Most made it. Some came out different. A girl named Hannah was one of them. She was quiet before, but after she went through the tunnel, she stopped speaking entirely. She just stared at the walls, whispering to something that wasn't there. When her parents finally got her to talk, she said one thing: "He's still in there." One night, a teenager named Mark decided to prove it was all nonsense. He brought a flashlight and crawled inside. Halfway through, his light flickered. The air turned freezing cold. Then he felt it, a hand grabbing his ankle. He screamed, scrambled forward, and burst out the other side. His friends laughed, thinking he was joking, until they saw his leg. A dark handprint burned into his skin. Ice cold. Too big to be a child's. Mark left town after that, but the tunnel is still there, still waiting. And sometimes at night, if you shine a light inside, you'll see a shadow that shouldn't be there. And if you crawl in, you might not come back out. Story: The Girl on the Swing. There's an old playground at the edge of town. The grass is overgrown, the slide is covered in rust, and the swings hang limp from their chains, except for one. No matter how still the air is, no matter how long you watch, the swing in the middle always moves. People say it started with a girl named Anna. She used to play there every day, her laughter filling the air as she swung higher and higher. But one evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, she just disappeared. Her parents searched everywhere, calling her name, but the only thing left was her swing, still rocking back and forth, as if she had just been there. The town put up missing posters. Police searched the woods, but there was no trace of Anna. And then the stories started. People walking past the playground late at night would hear giggling, soft, distant, but unmistakable. Some claimed to see a shadowy figure sitting on the swing. Others swore they heard a girl whisper, "Push me." One night, a man passing through decided to test the legend. He walked up to the swing, smirking, and gave it a push. The moment he touched it, the air turned freezing. The swing jerked back violently, nearly knocking him over. He stumbled, backing away, just as he heard a voice behind him, higher. He turned, but no one was there. The swing, now swinging on its own, went higher and higher until it suddenly stopped. The man ran. But later that night, he woke up to the sound of creaking, slow, rhythmic, right outside his bedroom window. When he looked outside, his blood went cold. The swing was empty, but there in the reflection of his window was Anna, swinging and smiling, and this time she was looking right at him. Story: The Thing Under the Slide. Most people think monsters hide in closets or under beds, but in my town we know better. They hide under the slide. At Maplewood Park, the playground has been abandoned for years. The metal slide is rusted, the paint peeling, but no one dares tear it down. Not after what happened. Not after the disappearances. It started with a boy named Eric. He was playing hide and seek with his friends, giggling as he ducked beneath the slide to hide. But when his friends came looking, he was gone. They thought he ran home, but his parents never saw him again. The only thing left behind, his shoes, neatly placed beneath the slide. After that, kids kept vanishing, always the same way. A game of hide and seek, a child ducking under the slide, then nothing. The adults closed the playground, warning kids to stay away. But curiosity is dangerous. A few years later, a teenager named Josh, drunk on dares and overconfidence, crawled under the slide at midnight. His friends laughed, waiting for him to pop out the other side. But he didn't. Seconds passed, then minutes, then a scream, sharp, terrified, then silence. His friends ran, but when they came back with help, Josh was gone. The only thing left behind was his phone, still recording. The video was short, just static at first, then a low whisper, something breathing. And just before the screen went black, two glowing eyes appeared, watching, waiting. Now, if you ever pass by Maplewood Park, you might see something move beneath the slide, a shadow that shouldn't be there. And if you ever hear a whisper calling your name, don't look, because if you do, you might be next. Thanks for watching this episode of Creepy Corner Stories. If you enjoyed these abandoned playground horror stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new tale of terror. And remember, if you ever find yourself near an old playground, you hear laughter when no one's around, walk away, because some games